Let's talk a little bit about competition. How have you thought about kind of like competing with some of the gorillas in the room?
Yeah, instead of telling you what we did, I'll give you like a framework that works really well. You ideally have like an idea of what you can do better, differently, and like market around that. And then when customers sign up, send them an email that says, hey, what were you doing before? And what did you dislike about them that brought you to us? And you see what people say. And then like keep just digging in and digging into that and making that stronger and stronger in your platform. And we did that. It's funny because like probably 2 years ago, we said, there are all these different like kind of random things, but we're like, personalization at scale seems like a real big gap that no one else is doing, right? And so we kept adding more features for it, talking about it. And then now like we get those email replies and they still go right to me. And I see like it's nearly everyone is saying that's what brought them here. And like keep learning what is bringing them to you, because that's what you want to do.
Bethany, so excited to have you on today. Big fan of what you've built at Sendspark. For the folks listening, Bethany is the CEO and founder at Sendspark and has built an amazing community on LinkedIn. You've probably seen her videos. Maybe you've even used Sendspark as well. But super pumped to have you on today and excited to jump in and learn about your journey.
Awesome. I'm excited to be here.
Cool. So a little background, the Revenue Room, I think this is like episode 12 at this point, maybe 11. But we've mostly talk to go-to-market leaders, folks that are innovating in the space. And one of the core kind of themes of the podcast is really going through the process of what it was like to get the business off the ground and then to really scale your go-to-market motion, whether that means bringing on reps or bringing on systems and technology to allow you to kind of punch above your weight. But before we jump into all that exciting stuff, I want to take a little walk, maybe down like memory lane. So I was doing some research and I noticed that your dad started a business and that may or may not have had an impact on kind of your entrepreneurial journey and kind of seeing that growing up. My mom also started a business when I was like 13 years old. She was a stay-at-home mom and she went out and built this really awesome business. And so like in my formative years, I saw her build this and it really kind of opened up my mind to the fact that like, if you want to do something, you can, and you just have to take one step at a time and go do it. So I'll start there. Like, would love to learn, like, early days. What was it like being Bethany growing up?
Yeah, I think you have a good point that when a parent is starting a business, it just really normalizes that the everyday business challenges are things that you can solve. And I remember, and my dad still, has his law firm. He's not as active in it anymore, but it's still around. But I remember like growing up and just dinner conversations were like how to compensate people, without, especially with the law firm, when you pay some people, everyone kind of knows you got to make sure people feel, feel like they're getting treated properly, and how to hire people out of school and build like educational programs and attract top talent. So like these were all just normal business conversations. And it's funny because a lot of it kind of comes up all the time and I guess lives in the back of my head and it hopefully helps make things easier.
Yeah, that's great. I love it. So like if there was anything maybe that you learned like growing up, any like takeaway that kind of stuck with you as you've like started building your own company?
Cool. Yeah, I'd say one of the key learnings is just how important people are. And I think a lot of the best moments, the best joys are from having like a great experience with your team or a great win with your customer. And then similarly, like the pain or why I've seen the most like friend companies that didn't work out or like co-founder problems or team problems. So I think that just knowing that like team is really important, it has helped us. And it's something that you have to actively like facilitate, like, especially with the co-founder, like you have to treat it as something that you're always working on and always making the other person like feel really good in the relationship. So I think that's been helpful.
Yeah. I completely agree. This is my second business and like co-founder relationships are really like the base of which you built your early culture and company on. So couldn't agree more. Like it's all about the people and making everyone feel heard and special in the beginning is like such an important piece, especially because in the beginning, it's typically really, really hard, right? And you're going to go through road bumps and you're going to go through turbulence. And I think that's probably a good transition point. So you've been working on Sendspark, I think, about 6 years now. And, you guys have really reached like amazing distribution. Looks like you guys have like over 10,000 users on the platform, maybe even over 12 at this point. but like, what did it look like for you to kind of start and think about the initial distribution model of how you were going to get Sendspark into the market?
Yes. So the initial distribution came down to knowing like who is Sendspark 10x for. Like we're in the video space, so there's other video companies, and to get people to switch over, we had to be 10x better for a certain type of person. So we really focused on like sales and just like scale video use case. A lot of our platform looks very similar to Loom, where you can like record individual videos and create these messages. But if you're like a normal Loom user, you're happy, why are you going to switch? And so we are able to focus on those like super users and make sure that there was a lot of features in there to create personalized videos at scale and just go deeper and deeper like into that niche to make Sendspark really better for those people. And then we're able to get the early adopters. And then, you know, they have like especially agencies, like people with a lot of influence on the platform so that they would spread it more. And, you know, at this point, Sendspark is accessible for a lot of people, even if you're not sending high volume videos. But I think it's important to know like who are you really 10x better for, and who are the people that are going to champion you and like use you early even when a lot of stuff's broken, and help you get the wider market appeal later on.
So when you initially launched, was it direct to rep or did you break in through companies? Like, what was the initial kind of focus for you?
It's always been direct to rep. So we do bottoms up. So like anyone can sign up. Even now, anyone can sign up for a solo plan. You don't need to have your whole team on board. And then, you know, we try to get to critical mass at a company. I think there's pros and cons to doing it that way versus going more like top down and getting a sale, but we've always done it that way.
Love it. I'm particularly interested in learning about this piece because it's like a really similar business model to what we built at First Touch. Um, direct to rep allows reps to do deep research and then create relevant outreach. And we've gone direct to rep first. We have like 2,500 users on the platform now. And it's a very similar business model in the sense that once we hit critical mass, that's when we go and approach a business at a corporate level. But I think like one of the things candidly that we've struggled with is the offering not being highly differentiated between the direct to rep version and the B2B version. And this is changing now. We're like launching our B2B platform shortly, but I'm curious like what that process looked like for you of getting in the door at an organization, and what the process looked like of really upselling and getting into the corporate level.
Yeah. I think you have to decide like how soon you want to do it. Cause you're right. It's almost like a different product at that level where you have a different buyer and different things that they want. And it might be worth spending a lot of time just really getting the direct rep down and like doing that. So we spent like a lot of time, and that's 80% of our focus is like just on the user experience more so than the like top down features. But people want different things, right? Like the user, the rep just wants the product to work really well and help them get good results. The manager wants enterprise security. They want reports and dashboards. They want, you know, high level insights based on how people are using it. And so I don't want to say it's a different product, but it is a different buyer. And I think you have to like know that. And also keep in mind that in order for your top level buyer to buy, if this is your model, the user has to have really good experience. So I'd say like you want to focus on the rep experience until it's like so good that you really are seeing that usage. And then you probably want to build totally new features, because if you don't have the features that are targeted to top down, like then the manager's gonna be like, well, if people want it, they'll just use it, and you know they don't need to buy it. So you have to think about what they're actually buying, and it's probably something completely different.
Yeah, it's a great point. And I think like a really good takeaway for folks that are building PLG companies like us, you know, you have to have the systems in place for management to be able to see the results, right? And like that's super important. If management can't see the results, it becomes really difficult for them to allocate budget, to renew, et cetera, even if usage is really high. So I think that's a great point. So maybe fast forwarding, you know, from kind of the early start, right? You guys have done a great job of building a super differentiated product in the market, you know, today, right? There's so many different channels and paths for distribution. Like, how have things changed in the last couple of years with like the introduction of Clay, for example, and how that's affected Sendspark?
I think one of the things that's been really helpful with Clay and just the whole concept of the go-to-market engineer and AI and data being more accessible with other companies building the space too, is that your average salesperson is almost like a mini marketer, right? Like I think there used to be a really big distinction between one-to-one or scale, and it was like sales did one-to-one and marketing did scale. And now I feel like a lot more like sales reps are kind of more like technical, setting things up, using automation. And so that's been like a pretty cool trend. And we've worked on like equipping people with like, hey, if you're ready to scale, like let's give you superpowers and you can create all these videos and send them off. And so yeah, I just think that like scale has become a lot more accessible. But it's changing like, what does a job title do? Or like, which job titles do what? I think it's gotten a little messier, which makes some things harder to categorize people. But on the whole, it's been interesting to see that trends evolve.
Yeah. And I think like one of the interesting things that I'm seeing in the market too is if you think about what startups are doing today, right? It's all about scaling efficiently. It's not necessarily about adding headcount. Headcount is not really an indicator of how well a company is doing anymore. And it's interesting because so many companies, and I would include Sendspark in this too, are building solutions to allow individuals to do more than what they could have previously done by themselves as an IC. So many other companies are building agentic solutions, that allow smaller teams to scale faster. And so I would imagine like in the next 3-4 years, right, there's going to be some really substantial companies, and there already are today, but there'll be a lot of them in 3 to 4 years that are generating, 100 to $300 million with like 50 people. And I guess I'm curious how you think of the future of go to market when, there really doesn't need to be as many people, going out and building pipeline, for example, as there are today.
Yeah, I think it's interesting, and I think we're trying to figure it out. I mean, there's some things I think are really exciting, and other things that are more worrisome, right? Where what I think that all of this unlocks is you used to need more collaboration, and the more collaboration you need, the slower things are. Because if you have 2 people involved in a project, it's probably going to take like 30% longer, because you have to go back and forth. And then you add another person, it's going to take even longer because you have communication gaps, or someone's out of office, you're just waiting on responses. And so I think with a lot of the like AI advancements, say agentic solutions, they empower like one person to do a lot more without human collaboration. Like even if you're like writing a blog post, maybe now you can get your images without going through a designer, which means you can like turn them out a lot faster without having those delays. Or like if you're in sales, you can like set up and iterate your own email campaigns without using marketing. Like you can just do more. So I think that like the unlock that's gonna be like part of the superpowers with unlock, is you could just do this all yourself without any friction, delays, or like people telling you no, which is great. But I think that there's also the trade-off of, that's probably fewer jobs for people in general and fewer entry-level jobs. And so like, I don't really know what that's going to mean for the market. And that's probably going to create other things that I don't even really know what the repercussions are going to be. So it's like a very cool time to be building, but I think a lot of instability, which is also worrisome.
Yeah. Yeah. I've thought about the same. And I mean, like, our solution is really targeted for like SDRs and AEs that are going out and either self-sourcing pipeline, or if pipeline is like their full-time job. And even in the last year, and this has really been happening for a few now, but even in the last year, like cold calling has really become the number one vehicle of how we've seen reps building pipeline, especially at larger organizations. And it's interesting because like proof of human has always been such an important piece of building relationships, especially when you're, selling, right? And so I guess I'm curious what your thoughts are on that piece. Like as we keep moving further down the funnel, and personalization is important, but proof of human is also really important. I'm curious what your thoughts are on like how that might play out.
I think that proof of human is important, but I think the problem is it's going to get like harder and harder to
tell.
Yeah, to tell. Like, and I think there's also a point where sometimes AI stuff is like better than human. So like, for example, cold calling, because you just mentioned that. Like right now, humans are better. But like, how long is that going to last? Like I know people building voice software, and it kind of like, so let's say that someone cold calls you. What they'll do is they'll clone your own voice and then make the AI sound more like you, because data shows that people are more receptive to people with their own voice. Like you can do things like this. So I think it's like, how long is a human really going to be better? I don't know. I mean, definitely right now, but like in 10 years, almost certainly not. So I think that like humans will keep adapting and keep figuring out where there is an advantage. Like in-person events or like intimate dinners are going to be really hard to fake. But I think there's like a level to sometimes like using the tech, it's actually going to be better. And like for us, we do AI personalized videos. And part of that is like, we're actually able to help create better videos that are more relevant and like more engaging to you than someone who's like been manually churning out 50 videos and is like, doesn't even really know what they're saying anymore. They're tired. They're just kind of saying the same script to get them all out. Like being able to actually perfect and style and prompt things the way you want can have a huge advantage. So I don't know. Again, with a proof of human, I think it matters. But if like the AI is actually able to improve what's being sent and make you more receptive to it, and I don't know if it still might just be someone behind the scenes pulling the strings.
Yeah. And I guess it begs a question, right? And I think you mentioned this a little bit earlier in the conversation, but like the lines between marketing and sales are getting blurred, right? Because like what is marketing's responsibility and what is sales responsibility when you're doing things at scale? And it's probably the formation of like this new role, which it's not even that new anymore, but like the GTM engineer who's kind of like orchestrating this process. Um, yeah, interesting.
And I think that also comes down to getting rid of silos. Like I think that someone doing a mix of, at least top of like earlier stage sales and marketing is probably going to be better than these teams that are way more siloed. Like my background's marketing and marketing automation. And I only started really selling when I had my own company and was doing like founder led sales and like realized like really talking to people, being in the hot seat, not just watching call recordings, but like feeling people like either saying no that a competitor has something you don't have, or like seeing them get really excited. Like that helps you create better messaging and better marketing. And so like, I think that in a way, yeah, the silos getting blurred is also something interesting. Like that either helps or hurts, or I don't know, but shapes the future.
No, I think it helps. Like, so before First Touch, I was at Klaviyo for 4 years. I was a BDR and an AE there. Um, and Klaviyo is like a marketing automation technology, right? Um, and there was so many times when it's like, sales is positioning themselves in the market one way and marketing is maybe going in a little bit of a different way. And it's like, if we could break down the silo, like I think we could move a lot quicker as a company. But like as you get bigger, I think you're right. Like the silos get bigger. The difference between what is going on in the sales room versus the marketing room starts to get wider. And I think that's like a really big advantage for startups now that are building and have the tooling to be able to do that more efficiently. Shifting gears a little bit. So you guys have built up like a pretty sizable company these days. Are you still focusing on doing founder-led sales? Like, have you put a team in place? Like, where are you guys at on the journey?
We have a small team, but I'm not focused on doing founder-led sales anymore. But our team's not that big. We do mostly product-led growth, and then have some inside sales and some enterprise, like angle team.
Cool. So, I mean, social content seems like a pretty big driver for you guys, right? I see your videos all the time on LinkedIn. I think you've done a really great job with your content strategy. Would love to kind of hear your thoughts and opinion on what you think the impact of creating a real audience and attention looks like in today's market.
I think it's important to like constantly share what you're doing and building, because I think that there's like a part where you're like, oh, we're gonna do this big launch and everything's gonna change. And like, that's not real. Cause like, first of all, you launch something when it's like barely ready, and then it's gonna keep like iterating, getting better. And then like when you launch something, people want to see use cases, they want to see customer stories. So there's like, I think ongoing communication just adds so much more than doing like a big thing one time that people may or may not see. And I also think like, we're talking about proof of human, like, I think people like to be part of the building of stuff. And so we try, like I post and I also like have my team post because I think it's helpful for customers and people to see like the humans behind Sendspark. So I think it's really important, but it doesn't make sense for every business, right? But at least for us, it's been like really helpful. And I think it's both going to drive new customers and keep current customers engaged and using the latest features.
Yeah. And I think like people can follow along on the journey, right? And when they end up meeting with you, they already have so much knowledge about what you've done. Not everyone, but like some folks, right, will come in and they're like already sold because of the content that they've seen or the thought leadership that you've provided. Huge advantage.
Oh yeah. It's, that like both posting on social and like sending videos and outreach. Like I remember probably a year and a half ago now, just doing a bunch of sales calls like people get on and they're like, what kind of video do you guys do? And you're like, oh man, like we're starting early. So I think you're right. The more you can educate people on what you do and how you help them before you hop on a call, it's just going to help you jumpstart the sales process.
Cool. All right. So let's jump into like Sendspark's go-to-market strategy, right? You guys are on the bleeding edge. Loom, Vidyard, right? I'm sure that those are like some of your main competitors. And for a while, like you guys were way ahead of them. What does your go-to-market strategy look like today in terms of how you leverage Sendspark and maybe other systems that you have in place that help you build pipeline as well?
Yeah. So we don't do everything, but we try to do what we do very well. So we do a lot of social and video content. So like posting tutorials, posting use cases, like how we're using the product, how customers are using it, and try to have like real actionable tutorials. And we put these on social channels. We'll also send them an outreach. And then what we try to do is like cast a pretty big net. And then once people start engaging or signing up free or doing different things, then we have a more targeted sales approach based on like the warmer leads. So it's a lot of video, and it's also like what we try to do is make it seem like maybe we're not like everywhere, but for the people who should be using Sendspark, I hope that it seems like we are everywhere, and that they're constantly just getting sparks of inspiration. Ooh, I could do this. I could set that up. I could, create this automation.
Love it. Okay, watermelon. Tell me about watermelon.
Well, it's so funny because watermelon was the word that we had when we first started the AI personalization Sendspark, where you record a video, you say, hey, watermelon, and like make your video message, and you would change watermelon with the viewer's first name. The funny thing is we've now updated our system, so we don't technically like need the watermelon, but we still have it. And I think at some point we might lose it. I'll be very sad, but it's a good placeholder word for now.
It is. Yeah, I love it. And I would imagine like with where LLMs are now and like video technology, really exciting for you guys and for the future of what Sendspark is going to look like. Curious what your thoughts are on like what the future of Sendspark looks like with AI moving so quickly.
Yeah, I mean, it's really cool. The way we try to think about it is like Sendspark, above all else, is a sales engagement platform. We're trying to help you connect with customers and drive revenue. And so we try to stay focused on how we can use AI to help you do that, but not necessarily build like everything because it's cool, because there's so much cool stuff that's out there right now. So what are we doing now? We recently added AI scripts. So, it's people always want to know like, hey, I should send videos, but what do I really say? And so what we do now is we'll actually like look up your company, read your case studies online, like use AI to scroll through your site. And then based on a template you choose, generate an AI script for you. And then you can record the video. We have some AI to like touch up your appearance. Obviously, you can personalize the videos at scale with AI. And then now we're doing a lot with automation. So you can like set up, if there's a certain trigger, someone visits your website, someone, fills out a form or schedules a demo, automatically generate the video and send it out to have more like relevant sales.
Okay, cool. So I'm sure it's different for every company, but if you generally had to provide some advice to folks that may be interested in using Sendspark, what would you say like the lowest hanging fruit Sendspark play you could run is?
I would try automating some of your inbound because it's just easy and it's automated and you're going to get better responses from inbound, like period. So like one of the best campaigns to start on is automating videos when people visit your website but don't sign up or schedule a demo. So as long as you have some way to know when people on your website, even if you're not like, ideally you're using RB2B or something to enrich website visitors, but even if you're not, and you can just tell like, hey, this is a contact that I have in HubSpot, but they don't have a plan and they're on our website, and you can tell that, you can use that as a trigger. You can set up a workflow either in Sendspark or in HubSpot, like use that as a trigger, automatically generate a Sendspark personalized video, and then send that out. And those campaigns will like drive you probably like a couple, at least replies or meetings a day, or like a lot more depending on your website traffic. And maybe it'll take you an hour to set it up, but it'll be fully automated.
That's awesome. ICP filtering, does that happen in Sendspark, or do you guys rely on like other systems to determine like who to send it to?
Yeah. So you do that in like your CRM. So you'd probably, the way like I'd set that up would be like the triggers in HubSpot, right? You have like the action, and then you can like filter out people you've either already talked to or aren't your ICP. But we don't do it. Like, you're just setting the trigger to us of when to create the video.
Let's talk a little bit about competition, because the sales engagement space and sales technology space, obviously, like, very crowded. It's super competitive, no matter what corner of sales tech you're in. How have you thought about kind of like competing with some of the gorillas in the room, right? Like when you started this business, Loom was already around. I think like spot on, like how do you 10x the experience of a user on Loom to get them to come to Sendspark? Like, how do you think through kind of the competitive mix and how you kind of break through the noise with Sendspark?
Yeah, instead of telling you what we did, I'll give you like a framework that works really well. This isn't my framework. I took it from Superhuman, but you ideally have like an idea of what you can do better, differently, and like market around that. And then when customers sign up, send them an email that says, "Hey, what were you doing before? And like, what did you dislike about them that brought you to us?" And you see what people say. And then like keep just like digging in and digging into that and like making that stronger and stronger in your platform. And we did that. So we have that email that goes out, and it's funny because like probably 2 years ago we said, there are all these different like kind of random things, but we're like, personalization at scale seems like a real big gap that no one else is doing, right? And so we kept adding more features for it, talking about it. And then now like we get those email replies, and they still go right to me, and I see like it's nearly everyone is saying that's what brought them here. So like if that's up for us, but like now that that one's taken, so I'd say pick whatever you want, but like ask people and like keep learning what is bringing them to you, because that's what you want to do.
Yeah. The process of building around early customers like has been super helpful for us. But I think like companies have to be really smart about how they do it, because two things happen. One, you'll get bad feedback, right? People just say like, "Yeah, I love this. It's awesome." Like they're afraid to give real feedback, especially to someone who's like maybe a founder of the company. So how did you guys like early on kind of determine like this is creating a lot of value? Our customers are being honest with their feedback, whether it's provided to you like in a meeting or it's by going through the data and really kind of analyzing that. Like what was kind of the path of figuring out, the usage fit for your early users?
Yeah, I mean, there's two things. Like one is like, what are people asking you for? And, I'd say prioritize the people that are already paying you, because they already like have value. Like if someone's not paying you and they ask for something, maybe it's a cool thing, but like there isn't really an indication that they would buy if they had that one thing. And then I'd say like it's also a lot of like watching people. Like even now, like me and my co-founder will still do onboarding calls, and like what I always say is like, "Hey, you get yourself started and just like speak up when you need me," and then kind of watch how they use the product and like where they get stuck, to know like how are people experiencing the product when you're not watching. And I think that insight can be really helpful, but like it's good to have both. I also think like I always advise companies not do free trials or free plans too early, because you get just so much noise. It can be like hard, and you just know you'll get some hate for it if you don't have a free plan. Like, why do you not have a free plan? Do you not believe in the product? You got to be like, well, let's like work with paid customers first, and then we'll add free when we're ready to scale.
Yeah. So do you guys have a free plan now or all paid?
We'll add it back soon, but we haven't had it for the last year. We took it off, and for that reason, like we're getting a lot of just a lot of feedback from like everyone. Like we're getting like 100 signups a day, and like it was just more feedback we can handle. So we've got to turn it back on. We've decided we will, but we haven't done it yet because, it'll bring on a lot of feedback.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's like a good point. And like there also is a psychology behind like I bought something, now I have to use it, right? Compared to like I signed up for free. Oh, and maybe I was interested, but I kind of forget about it because I don't have any type of financial commitment to it.
Yeah. And you should also, if you're like working on products and activation, then pretty much 100% of the people that bought your product should activate. But if it's a free plan, you're looking for like a 20% activation rate. And so if people are not activating, you don't always know why. And like, especially for a product that's more technical, that's like doing things in a different way than people have done it before, you want to make sure that experience is like super, super smooth and streamlined. Like you want to build the most easy to use product in the world. And it's going to be hard to do that and know like what are the missing pieces if you have so many free users that are, they were just kind of checking it out and not going to use it anyway.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. And I think that's like a real challenge for a lot of companies, which is like, how do you influence change management? right? When you're doing something new and you have to learn something new, especially for sales folks today. Like I think the GTM engineering crowd, they're willing to put in the work, right? A lot of them are operating systems like Clay, which, there's a serious learning curve too. But for like the everyday rep, what was the process like for you of kind of building that onboarding experience to get them going on their own?
I mean, it's constantly iterating. Yeah, we'll watch people use it and then iterate from there. Also, what's interesting is like what's normal changes over time. So like when we were first building, like everyone was like using Zoom. And so like people kind of expected video things to behave like Zoom. I think like Google Meet has gotten more popular. Other things have gotten more popular. People are more comfortable with video. So like there's different things that like used to be hard versus are hard now. And like right now, I think what we're trying to make super easy is setting up AI automations. And right now, for people, it might be their first time doing that to set up like kind of an AI agent like flow. But I bet in a year, like you won't have that be tough. Also, now people are very comfortable with Chat GPT and using chat to like engage with things. So I think that that's going to change like user experience design a lot. But that's the way we think about it, is like what are people like really comfortable with that we can have them use in Sendspark to interact with our product.
Yeah. And I think you're totally right. Like right now, we're bridging into a new era. Like pretty much every rep that I talk to now is using GPT. Some are using Claude, but I think GPT really is like the most popular at the rep level. And they're comfortable, like chat interface. They realize that context is so important. But I think that's one thing that reps may struggle with right now is the fact that when you're in GPT, it doesn't have all of the context. It doesn't know what conversations have already been had. It doesn't understand like everything about your company unless you've set up a My GPT. It doesn't understand kind of the nuances of maybe the individual or company that you're reaching out to. And I think that is a really exciting opportunity in go to market right now, which is, I think sooner rather than later, that context window is going to become much more accessible at scale. And I think that's going to allow teams to do some really interesting stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's cool.
All right. Question. What do you think of AI SDRs?
I think that in our experience, they haven't worked super well like at the moment, but I'd be shocked if they're not the norm in like 18 months from now.
Why do you think they like haven't worked well so far? I mean, obviously like the actual messaging that's been coming out, some do better than others, and I think the LLMs are getting better, but in your kind of like in your gut, like what's telling you right now that they're just not quite there?
I think that like a lot of the way that they're doing personalization is like missing the point. And like this is us from both like trying to set up our own and emails I'm getting. Like they're always like, Sendspark's a video platform. I'm like, dude, I know that Sendspark's a video platform, but like that's also such a tell for like an AI personalization. So I think what they have to do is like kind of more based on, I think the future is really signal based selling, right? Like figuring out what are the key signals that indicate like you should be reaching out, that someone's a good fit, that it's like a good time, and like knowing that. So I think that the future is really going to be more relevance than personalization. And I think that is easy to automate. So I think that like things are kind of getting there, but a lot of the systems are like very general right now. And so that doesn't work very well. But as soon as you start really connecting the dots and be like, okay, like Common Room to Sendspark to Lavender, like things are going to really start clicking. So I think it's happening. I think it's like in the process of happening. And I'm sure some people are doing it well right now, but I think it's just not like plug and play and universally accessible to companies at the moment.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think relevance is everything right now. And like, I think there'll probably be a process in which, relevance is actioned on to a point where it gets really good. Right now, it's like this single signal outreach where it's like, you're hiring for a job. This is why you should care about us. Or like, you just raised funding. You should care about us. Like, I think that doesn't work. And I think it hasn't been working. But once you start stacking them and you start to realize like multiple things happening, even for a company like yours and ours, like when we see a combination of like product usage and site visit, or maybe they're looking at our resources and training materials, and it's like those combination of signals together and being able to have the context to understand what to say and when to say it, that's the point in which I think there will be like a real inflection, and I think value will be found.
And like, what are the signals that are unique to you? Like a funding announcement is not unique to any business. It's just telling you someone has money. And honestly, like companies usually post the announcement when they want to post the announcement, not when they've just raised funding, which might mean that they're actually fundraising. And so they're posting it and it means they need money. Like, it's not like an advantage. It's not a competitive advantage. But I think when you can start figuring out which signals are unique to you and a competitive advantage to you, and then build models around that and stack it with other signals, like, yeah, now you're really playing.
Yeah. And I think we're not too far away from that. I think the most important piece is going to be finding the signals that are unique to your business and then actioning on them in the right way. And I think that piece, the actioning in the right way, I think we're probably a little bit of a ways from, but we're getting closer. And I think that's going to be like the situation. That will be the point in time where things really change. And I'm curious to see like how that's going to impact larger businesses that have operated on like a very static model, like one-to-one model. When you guys enter the market or like position yourself with companies, is it typically startups, mid-market, enterprise, like all three?
It's a mix, but even when it's an enterprise, it's usually like a team who's like working on new things and maybe a bunch of new things, and Sendspark's part of it. Like it'll often be a team who like just bought Clay or is also trying an AI SDR or like something else. Which I think makes sense because I think that there's when you're a big ship, like you don't always want to like turn everything, but if there can be like a small group trying out newer stuff and testing it out, then that is a lot easier to do. And so I think that's the stage that like the world's in right now a little bit, where you kind of have your innovators trying different things and trying to figure out processes that can be applied larger scale.
Yeah, 100%. Bethany, such a pleasure having you on today. Like so many good learnings for folks that are building right now and how they should be thinking about their go-to-market strategy. A lot of good tips and takeaways, even for us at First Touch. So I just want to say thank you for coming on. Like awesome conversation, and really appreciate it.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks so much for having me and the questions. This was great.
Cool.